What are we going to do? Now, at the time, NFTs, as we both know, were super popular. And I didn't see NFTs as a monkey where you could just, invest some money and maybe you might get rich. I saw non-fungible tokens as like an 11 ERC55, an interoperable way to distribute something across a ledger on a blockchain that would land it on your wallet or some way in your possession that had a string of code that clarified and defined your ownership stake. So I said, well, why don't we fractionalize beyond the code and let people own it? Give them a piece of their story or someone else's story where you could actually have a marketplace that empowers developers, creators, investors, entrepreneurs to own, govern, and monetize their own IP.
Welcome to The Edge of Show, your gateway to the Web3 revolution. We explore the cutting edge of blockchain, cryptocurrency, NFTs, ordinals, DeFi, gaming, and entertainment, plus how AI is reshaping our digital future. Join us as we bring you visionaries and disruptors pushing boundaries in this digital renaissance. This show is for the dreamers, disruptors, and doers that are pumped about where innovation meets culture. This is where the future begins.
We're expanding across new frontiers. On Zora, creativity lives on-chain where every post, drop, and idea can evolve into something of real value. Explore what we're building on Zora at zora.co. Just hit the platform and search The Edge of Show to find us. 2 communities, 1 mission, building the future together.
Welcome to this special edition of The Edge of Show. I'm your host, Josh Krieger, and this episode is co-produced in collaboration with BeyondTheCode.ai, bringing together leaders shaping the future of decentralized intelligence and AI-driven innovation. We feature top-notch guests across Web3, AI, and emerging tech culture. It's another production of The Edge of Company, a growing media ecosystem empowering pioneers in Web3 tech and culture, and the team behind major experiences like Outer Edge Innovation Festival. Today's show features Nefertiti Strong, who's the co-founder of XRA Agency and the founder of BeyondTheCode.ai. Working at the intersection of AI, media, and decentralized technologies, she builds and deploys developer ecosystems and real-world systems that move innovation from concept to execution. She's a friend of Edge and a partner. It's great to have you on the show, Nefertiti.
Thanks for having me, Josh. Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
Where are you in the world today? I see your awesome coffee that you produce in Africa in the background, so I assume you're home.
I am. I'm fortunate to distribute it. The farmers are the ones who plant it and cultivate it, wash it, dry it, bag it, and get it over to me. Very, very proud to be a part of that company. It's based out in Uganda, so I wanted to have it out there for our special Africa edition. Thank you. Carico.shop.
And are you in Germany right now?
I am. I spend my time in Europe and in the Americas and in Africa and hopefully a lot more Asia this year. I really want to try to dig deeper into that world.
Well, we'll talk about your global nomadic travels and what you're up to at this unique intersection in time in our society. But I wanted to start just with your journey, which is really fascinating. I've gotten to know, and I think our audience would enjoy as well. You've covered a lot of different ground, from music and film into AI and Web3 and all that sort of stuff in between. When you zoom out, I'm curious, what connects everything you've done together, and how did all this sort of naturally happen and bring you to this moment you're at today?
Great question. I often ask myself the same thing. I'm always wondering, like, how did I get here? As you said, I started in music and film, and I got a record deal when I was like 16 years old, which a long time ago. When I look back at that, I'm like, wow, that actually happened. I did music and film for the first, I would say, 30 years of my life. That was like all I did was want to be in a band or, want to make records. I was so blessed to get the opportunity. I got signed to the Rhythm and Black Music Group, which eventually turned into, Polygram got swallowed by Universal. I think I was a part of one of the first big, um, you know, conglomerates kind of coming together in the music world in the early 90s. I went into film. I starred in my first film, which was directed by the late Melvin Van Peebles and his son Mario Van Peebles.
Oh yeah.
So blessed to be in that film. A lot of my peers, that are just amazing actors and actresses, notable Angela Bassett, Kadeem Hardison, Bokeem Woodbine. Um, you like just being on that set, Marcus Chung from The Matrix. And that kind of translated. It helped me really dig deeper into culture. I was humble from the very beginning. I like to think I'm humble now. I got a chance to go on the road with people like Public Enemy. Thank you, Chuck D and Professor Griff, and for allowing me to grace the stage. I went on to get picked up by a large agency. I had Kara Lewis, who a lot of people in the music world know. She's a very incredible agent who allowed me to go out on some really big stages. And I think my last tour was with Arrested Development, my last official tour. And since then, I moved into agency, kind of like the agent of agency. What changed for me was storytelling. See You Next Tuesday was the actual short that got in the festival. So I believe I was one of the first rappers, producers who actually was in Sundance. And then we created this thing called um, I won't say the name because I don't want to give it any more clout than it already has, but I was one of the creators. We brought a lot of artists into the Sundance landscape that had never been there before, from Nelly to, just a lot of artists showed up with me. My good buddy,
Nelly came by NFTLA too.
yeah, nice. Yeah, I actually did one of my big. I directed Nelly and the Saint Lunatics, one of my first big directing jobs. So moving into art, right, and then looking at technology as just like in music when it shifted. We went from analog to digital. I was around for that as well. So technology has shaped my reality. Whereas probably earlier than most, AI to me wasn't just another tool. It was a system that could either scale human intention or literally remove us out of the loop completely. And we both know that that's like a choice and not a problem. So me being what was considered to be back in the 90s like a conscious rapper, I took that same consciousness into agency, and I opened the doors of my agency probably over 20 years ago. It evolved a few different times. First, it was focused on productions. Then it started doing productions and events around the world. I worked with some large film teams. I was able to see con and film festivals and to just get a light of intellectual property. I then realized that that was also shifting. So media taught me how to move people early on. Web3 kind of introduced me to ownership and decentralization. And then AI introduced me to intelligence. So putting all those things together is kind of where I ended up, who I am and what I am today.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess the arc to all that is that you know we're 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 sort of as we evolve technologically, some of the core aspects of storytelling just transcend time, and it's just what mediums, what channels, what formats are we going to use to share compelling stories with the world.
Absolutely.
You've said that your focus now is more so execution, which is interesting because a lot of people in AI and Web3 are more ideating and trying to catch up with all the tools and technology. I'm curious, what does real execution look like to you today, and what are the systems that need to be built to move sort of this idea of storytelling from concept to deployment?
Execution today is not very simple to explain, yet it is. It's not very hard to do, yet it is. For me, it means stop the talking about what AI can do. It means putting something in people's hands that actually works, not a pitch, like not a deck, not theory, but something real, a tool, something people can use, like a system that solves problems, a workflow that saves time or makes you money. To me, that's execution. And the thing about that is because a lot of people fall in love with great ideas, and their ideas of the future, their ideas that they think are going to make them, loads of money. It's very, very interesting to see people build work. It's the most uncomfortable thing to do. Over time, you design things or you overtalk or you over fundraise or you can't get money. But they never really end up shaping things into something that matters to people. So what I've learned, especially in building across like Africa and India and, working with whole entities of builders and developers around the world is that execution looks very small. It's systems, it's deployed. And those are systems that are deployed to real users. It's not perfect. It's just something that's real. I think I go back to AI because that for me is the thing that I'm working with and on daily. So execution is like keeping humans in the loop. It's like having a value that's being created and not something that's just being extracted, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, it
you know
feels
what I mean?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think as you're sharing all that, I do sort of appreciate that teams have gotten smaller with the help of more automation and more support systems around them. There's more outsourcing, there's more specialization. But at the end of the day, it's about carrying the vision through to reality using, what's available to all of us. I'm curious, I've heard that we're about 1, 2 years away minimum from AI systems that can truly run autonomously businesses and I guess do the execution. Uh, I think it probably varies by industry. Something like putting an event together, a hackathon. There's a lot of human involvement today, but what are your thoughts on where AI is going in terms of enabling execution?
That's a great question. I mean, I think that question has a few answers. I think one of the things that we have to be very conscious of is keeping humans in the loop. I think that if you just think about like, what are we doing with this new tool? Is it creating? Is it extracting? And, you know, what are we building actually? And is it something that's going to be useful? So if you're talking about like the future, you're right. It's small groups. It's quantity. It's over quality right now, but eventually it'll be quality over quantity. And I hope that doesn't leave us out. I think the global AI conversation, honestly, is something much larger than we probably have time to talk about on this podcast right now. We could do a part two. But I think, thinking in terms of systems and in terms of people who are actually activating these systems, and then the people that don't really understand these systems, and then the people that somewhat understand these systems, and then the people that are interested in learning these systems, and then you have the people that are just simply afraid of these systems.
All that makes sense in the context of this more complex ecosystem world that we live in, and ecosystems on top of ecosystems, and it's also changing the role of developers. At one point, maybe 5 years ago, everyone wanted to be a developer. It looked like a really good path to economic opportunity, but now developers, of course, competing with AI. So let's zoom in now on the developer ecosystems that you're actively documenting and cultivating in Africa and India. What are you seeing on the ground in terms of that conversation around AI and how AI is being used that people might not be seeing elsewhere, and in particular around the developer community?
Well, that's a great question as well, because for the last almost 2 years, I've been a part of helping to create incubators and hackathons, across the global south. And I've been doing that with an open source language called Meta Hyperon, which was designed and developed by a super smart human. Um, that particular entity is called Singularity Net, and the person, the scientist behind that, had a vision that people would have a language that's open source, that's not something that you couldn't just use for free. Open source, for those who don't understand it, means that it's just there for you. Everybody can use it. And I believe that's how technology should be. Because when you don't have access to things, which is what I believe the biggest hurdle is for developers around the world, not just the global south, not just in America, but it's about access. And so when you're building a function and you're seeing people on the ground, then you get a chance to understand builders are thinking in systems, not just like, how can I use this app? Real builders are trying to figure out how to take AI and use it for real world problems, constraints like connectivity, education, payments. I mean, like M-Pesa, that was a developer who came up with that. And any level of urgency. And that's what I see a lot. I see people trying to find a way to fix problems. They're actually using AI as a tool.
An opportunity for young developers to have economic prosperity when AI is gobbling up a lot of the fundamental development requirements when it comes to code.
Today, today they do. Do I have a measurement on how long they will? No. I think
I'm concerned about like a 21-year-old developer and what would happen with their career in 10 years from now if they're sort of looking at this as their path and they're based in India or Africa.
so narrowing it down to if they're based in India and Africa, because again, this is about access, right? Like, so what tools do they have access to? Do they have access to compute? Do they have a computer? All of those things are going to impact the answer to this question. But if we're just doing a general answer, I think what is good about these tools is that if you're building with intention now, you're helping to shape the way the system is going to think. You're literally helping to shape the way AI will eventually look back at us as human beings. So sure, there are enough tools right now today without you having a huge background in engineering or going to Harvard or even MIT. There are capabilities of you to build something right now with open source code.
And I wonder if it changes the fundamental attributes of a good developer. It might not be necessarily someone that has strictly a systems engineering mindset. It could be a more creative individual that can now sort of be a developer given the tools that are available to them.
Well, I mean, look, I never considered myself to be a developer, yet I'm building a platform, right? So there are global tools that are there for me to do it. I'm able to move in a different way than I was without the tools that weren't available to me 3, 4 years ago. So, can a doctor be a doctor without going to school to learn a specific understanding of medicine? Probably not. You wouldn't go to that doctor. So, I encourage people to educate themselves no matter what their circumstances are. Because the beauty about what technology has done, let's just say the internet, you can learn a lot of things on YouTube. I have met some geniuses who have literally gone to every college nameable because they did it for free, because those courses are available. You can walk into a library and educate yourself.
But
So
isn't it also about someone with your background leveraging your experience as a creator, sort of teaching creativity and teaching storytelling? Because isn't that skill set now more relevant than ever to development?
absolutely. I bet it's always been that way. I mean, that to me has always been the thread of everything. Every commercial is a story or a jingle somebody wrote and you hear them singing it. There is nothing that's been adapted commercially that doesn't have a story behind it. You don't just get adaption, you get new models of ownership and participation when you think about storytelling.
Every company has a story behind it, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
like, why do we use one ketchup brand over another? Why do we drink one coffee over another? It's
Exactly.
a story.
I mean, that's a part of the global conversation, and it hasn't fully caught up to people's understanding. Everything is story. From the beginning of us being intelligent humans, we put things together mathematically. Music is math. When you learn how to play a piano, or your first chords to a guitar, you're putting strings together. It's in a 4 point of four, it's either 8 beats, 4 beats, it's 12 beats, it's a syncopated rhythm. Our hearts beat to a syncopated rhythm. So I truly believe in that. I think that, back to talking about the hackathons and incubators and developers, this is really a community lifting moment wherever we are, whatever we're doing. It's about uplifting people in story. Who are you? Where'd you come from? What do you want to do when you grow up? Or where do you see yourself 5 years from now? And it all begins with a story. And so I encourage young people to take their passions and their stories into the things that they want to build. Find the tools, find the people. The majority of it is online. You don't necessarily need money, but you do need access to these systems. And that's one of the things that we're looking to make sure happens. It's one of the reasons why I believe in decentralization and open source, is because without that, young people that don't have the money or don't have access to these technologies, they won't have the same chance. And it doesn't level the playing field. Can you build a model right now and allow yourself to earn? Absolutely, 100%.
When you're connecting these pipes, obviously, you're tapping into local school systems. You're working with companies that want to cultivate more developers using their products and services. What are some of the other dots that you have to connect now to run these types of events globally that maybe weren't as important before?
Sponsors, sponsors, sponsors. People that want to have their technology adapted, or any of their tools, their wallets, the majority of companies that we work with all want to have developer adaption, because that is the front line of the rest of the world accepting whatever your product is commercially. The layer that we're trying to solve is, how do those developers stop just being used by big tech and by these sponsors that see them later once they adapt their product? We're building out with entities that see these developers as the life force of what they're building. When you think about fractionalized ownership, or you think about, when you test something out, even if you get a survey that pays you, you got paid. A lot of times I see adaption happen where people want other people's ideas for free. They want to have you do these hackathons, you build these projects, you put them on their GitHub, and you never see these people again. They take your concepts and ideas and they turn them into bigger ideas and concepts, and you never get a chance to have any ownership about it, or with it. Hence why I built Basics, and why we're building Basics Marketplace. That became a desire, just like me wanting to make a record. I wanted to leave an imprint before I left this earth. I wanted to have people know that I was here. That's what really records are for. So building a marketplace centered around developer fractionalization and ownership and deployment of the things that they build is something that I'm putting in the middle of my work. Now, when companies hire me um, to execute these deployments, I usually do them in 6-month stints, because what I've learned over the years is one day just doesn't matter. People are just there for the money. But if you're able to build with people, you not only build an ecosystem, but you build a community. Oftentimes, you'll find 100 kids in the room. You'll end up with, let's say, 15 projects. In 6 months, you have 7 projects, because 4 of them, or the other half of them, realized theirs wasn't strong enough and they could join another team. You walk out with 7 businesses. That's the same 100 people in ownership positions, leaning in on their strengths, not trying to be the best one in the room, but recognizing that the tools that they've been given have given them a chance to do 2 things. One, they check the KPI that we're in the room to check the KPI for. But the thing that they get to leave with is ownership of something that they can actually use in their community to solve a problem. So it's harder now because, of course, the economy is shifting. And, when whole countries are at war, it's hard, right? Everybody's losing. War isn't just impacting the places that are actually physically fighting against each other. It impacts those countries that shipments coming from those places, all the way down to family members. So when I look at the global south right now in April 2026, um, I think about gas prices, I think about transportation, I think about food and what has to become important to a young developer who's already in a situation where maybe they're sharing a computer at the incubator that they show up at. How do they get there now if gas prices are too high and transportation goes up? So there are all these things that can be synchronistic in a negative way. But I think when people approach me and they say, "Hey, you know what? I've got this product or I'm trying to launch this thing and I really need 300 developers that are at this level or I just want 300, developers that are interested in this." I try and find a way that allows the developers to get something. You know, I need them to always get something because I feel like that's a part of who I am. I don't want to ever leave a trail of tears. And I'm not saying that to be funny. I'm simply saying that to be real. And I'm saying when I show up with my team in places like Africa and India, we show up as hope. We show up. And the one thing that we want to leave behind and that we oftentimes leave behind is that we're not leaving you. This is just the beginning. And I truly mean that.
You hear a lot about tokenizing real-world assets, but here's the part most people don't talk about. Most financial infrastructure was never built for it. Settlement is slow, liquidity is fragmented, and once assets move on-chain, compliance often becomes an afterthought. That's the gap Labs is solving. Labs builds enterprise-grade infrastructure to bring real-world assets on-chain, including mortgages and private credit, loans, real estate, carbon credits, and open and closed-end funds. But tokenization alone isn't enough. Labs connects these assets to real liquidity through a curated pool of blue-chip lenders and institutional counterparties because assets need to move and be redeemed reliably. With its Gen AI Mortgage Copilot, institutions can analyze, structure, and manage complex asset portfolios faster with compliance and risk controls built in from day one. Institutions get efficiency, liquidity, and control. Investors and blockchain platforms gain frictionless global access to traditional assets. This is real infrastructure for real capital. Join leading institutions today at posilabs.io.
That's great. So obviously, you know, you want to scale visibility when it comes to a new business beyond your family, beyond your local community. And part of your approach to media, I guess, is with regard to Beyond the Code and these events is to sort of embed this infrastructure into the DNA of what you're building. Could you sort of elaborate more on that? Is your goal with Beyond the Code to give these successful projects a platform of voice to your broader community, basically to move them from A to B without having to rely on other media outlets?
100%. That's why I did a partnership with Edge of Company because, when you think about the amount of people that you've interviewed, you think about the amount of people that have actually been in my seat to date. It's a lot of people, a lot of opinions, a lot of products, a lot of successes, a lot of failures. When I came up with Beyond the Code, and I would just say, not I, let me take that out. When we came up with Beyond the Code, myself, Saskia Natalie Betts, Ben Gertzel, Danny Newcomb, Sarah Isaacson, I would say, the team, just so many people were ideating at that moment with me. Max Penzel, like just really good people with great story ideas. and understanding that just like in the music digital analog exchange, we were facing a conundrum. We were facing media actually shifting as we were talking about it. How do you take a story of AI and convert it into something that's accessible to people that are in Web 2? Individuals that are curious about AI and its evolution, also its societal impact. Like, so I thought about what does the fusion of that look like, right? So exploring what Ben was building and is building with AGI, exploring what the series would look like. Having my very dear friend Macy Gray with her incredible voice say yes to doing the voiceover. Massive. Because I understood that the shift was going to leave so many people behind, so many insights uncovered, and also the rate that AI is taking out and literally taking out thousands of people a day. There needed to be something that we could produce and have outlets like Edge of Company to not go to the centralized, stations that weren't going to tell this story properly. After we built Beyond the Code, the BBC had a series called Beyond the Code. And yay, thank you. Got us a lot of eyeballs. What they did was amazing. It's done. That was it. They did it. We're seeing this as an evolution of every day. And I've been so blessed through my networks, through support, to be able to get out there and capture these stories. We were just in Africa, hence to how this particular series evolved. I called you up, Josh. I was like, hey, we're going to be, at the African Tech Summit. And this year it's going to be the Cardano African Tech Summit. And, the budgets for us aren't that huge, but how can we take something small and make it bigger?
I really appreciate your creativity when it came to, this collaboration, and I'm always open to new ideas. And we've we've had about 500 or so shows almost at this point, and we're gonna get there soon. And you know, we've always tried to have everyone doing cool things at the edge on the show, right? From big brands like Warner Brothers and major players in the creative space like Steve Aoki to startups that are pushing the limits in really interesting ways. And of course, when you're doing content like that, there's going to be projects that are presented that don't make it, right? But that's 99% of startups.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely. When I got introduced to you, I think we were in Singapore, or Thailand. It was
yeah,
someplace.
we were doing a IRL event, with 8Bond, a really cool company
Yeah,
who does still exist. And you
and
know,
Animoca Brands, they're huge. Don't leave them out. I mean, like, and then
yeah,
Rich
they were there,
yeah,
and
Rich was like a huge fan of yours. I had a chance to pitch, um, to Rich very briefly. And he's a character. He's someone who just immediately said, I get it. He mentors young people. We met oddly twice, which lets the spirit lets you know that it was meant to be. I bumped into him. He had already known Dr. Ben and they had worked together in Asia. And I saw him again, like I think it was the same day at our hotel. I was coming down an elevator talking to his partner about coffee, just random stranger. And then he rolls up and was like, "That's my partner, Neff. And it was just like, okay, things are meant to be in life." And then he kept talking about Edge of Show and how you gotta meet Josh. And then when you and I met, in Cali, I mean, like, I think it was a day before those horrific fires.
crazy times.
It was insane. Yeah, that's how life works, but I also feel like that's how story works, right? When you're in it and you're telling that story, as we all know as storytellers, it starts to come to life, right? So you want to take things that are actually affecting you that are actually guiding you, and you want to put them into a palatable way for people to understand. And then also, when you look at these larger entities like the Netflix of the world that are now doing gaming and, changing the way that they're telling their stories and changing the way that viewers are having to adapt to watching stories. It says a lot when you look at these large, media companies that are literally folding in on themselves. It's because the story is shifting. And so, as a storyteller, as an artist, I like to think that I can see things a lot further than most, which is kind of my secret sauce, is I just don't look down at my shoes. I try and think about, where are we going to be as a human race, in 10 years from now? What is it going to be like? I try and listen to young people, people that are way younger than me, and to just, have different perspective and then incorporate that into the storytelling. That's what helps me go beyond the code.
Let's talk a little bit more specifically about some of the infrastructure you're building to support your mission vision with Beyond the Code. One of those products is called um, basicsmarket.io. It's BASIX market.io. Can you walk us through the thinking behind this product and what you're trying to solve there?
So, wow. Um, that's funny. I oftentimes I'm thinking like, am I just selling myself or am I just explaining what I had to come up with out of necessity? As I said before, basics came about out of necessity. I remember having a talk with a very well respected scientist. And at the time, the biggest issue I was trying to solve was distribution for Beyond the Code. Like, who's going to accept this story as is without trying to change it?
Let's take a pause to shout out one of our favorite partners. For tech innovators facing legal challenges, Zuba Lawler is your go-to law firm. They focus on understanding your technology and business model before addressing legal requirements. Specializing in blockchain, AI, VR, AR, quantum computing, and more, Zuba Lawler offers expert guidance in capital raising, IP transactions, M&A, litigation, and compliance. Visit zuberlawler.com, that's ZUBERLAWLER.com, for cutting edge legal solutions.
What are we going to do? Now, at the time, NFTs, as we both know, were super popular. And I didn't see NFTs as a monkey where you could just, invest some money and maybe you might get rich. I saw non-fungible tokens as like an 11 ERC 55, an interoperable way to distribute something across a ledger on a blockchain that would land it on your wallet or some way in your possession that had a string of code that clarified and defined your ownership stake. So I said, well, why don't we fractionalize Beyond the Code and let people own it? Give them a piece of their story or someone else's story where you could actually have a marketplace that empowers developers, creators, investors, entrepreneurs to own, govern, and monetize their own IP. I mean, hey, there's a place, I won't tell you to go look, but there's a Nefertiti station. I didn't give them my music at all. They didn't call me up and say, hey, we want to make this really, really dope station and we're going to take all the stuff that you own and not pay you anything for it. You hear that over and over, but it actually happened to me. There are oftentimes I see things that I wrote. I didn't get a check. So by merging advanced AI and blockchain and decentralization and governance, Basics is an infrastructure for borderless, fair, and sustainable digital economy. So it's for developers learning and deploying AI. It's for teams building interesting tools. It's about digital asset ownership. But it's not just about me doing it. It's about how do I uplift a whole group of people that are going to do it for free, give it away, and never have any ownership. So the real opportunity I saw was in building a marketplace. So yeah, people are like, oh, there's 1,000 marketplaces. Well, there's a lot of burger shops too, right? You can go to In-N-Out, you go to McDonald's, Fat Burgers. You have your choice. I always say it's about the sides, right? Like, what are you going to get with the burger? Right? Like, what are you going to get with it? So for me, what you're getting with basics is you're really getting an idea that is formed from a need. So, like, I've got a buddy of mine who built a platform called Incantio. Incantio originally came out of a desire to make sure that anybody who wrote that music or was the drummer in the band could get the percentage that is owed to them, right? So I understood what that meant because the same thing happened to me. So oftentimes when you build things out of necessities, which most of these developers do that I meet in the global south and otherwise, they're building amazing tools that either solve their own problems or they solve problems for businesses. So many times I've had people say, "Oh, I've gotten this thing. I'm in this bottleneck." And I'm like, "You got to meet this kid. I met this kid. They did this, and that. And you know what? They need the money. Why don't you connect the dots?" That's what marketplaces do if they actually function properly.
Well, that sounds really cool. So people can use the product right now?
Nope, we're building it.
Okay, cool. And what do you have any sort of sense of when the next milestone's gonna hit?
I hope that we'll be in beta, let's say by mid-August, we should be in beta. At this point, I'm using young developers and also professionals at the same time, just to try to get it done and activating and continuing to build relationships with developers around the world.
That's great. Yeah. So, I love that you're sort of using your sort of hackathon community to sort of help you build this product and sort of drinking your own Kool-Aid, so to speak. So stay tuned for updates there and obviously check out basicsmarket.io and follow the journey. It sounds like it'll be ready for you by before the end of the year, for sure. And I guess, kind of zooming out a little bit more, Nefertiti, we've been talking about the near term future and the ecosystem building that you're doing right now. We started to cover sort of the sort of unpredictability of the future of developers and whatnot. But if we do fast forward 5 or 10 years and we're looking at the systems that are going to be required for this more creative developer universe across AI and thinking about inclusivity, what does that world look like to you, and what role do you want to play in shaping that future?
Participation for me is just inclusiveness and giving the world an opportunity to utilize all of this new technology in a way that fits their lives. I think AI will be everywhere. That part is super clear to me. I think the difference will be, who it works for.
Yeah, so we gotta think about how to make sure no one's left behind in this sort of more futuristic society. And I think it's the grassroots stuff that you're doing in India, in Africa, that's essential. And you know, there's going to be people that are going to have to evolve. They're going to be uncomfortable. I think we're all a little bit uncomfortable now, but I think it's being comfortable with being uncomfortable that will be sort of essential for this future that we've talked about today.
Absolutely agreed. Absolutely.
So before we wrap up, we like to have this fun little segment called Shout Out that I know you know about because you co-hosted the last few shows with us, and I encourage everyone to check out all the shows in this sort of special Africa edition collaboration. But is there anyone that sort of comes to mind at this moment that you'd like to shout out? Maybe that doesn't get as much spotlight attention as they deserve.
Um, honestly, I just want to shout out all of the folks that are supporting me. I won't name names in case I forget anyone, but everybody that works with me daily, mostly my partner Saskia. And I just also want to just shout out all the developers that we've come across. I don't think they get enough attention. I just would say to them if they're watching this, keep doing what you do.
I love it. So shout out to all those folks. And Shout out to your team and my team that helped put this special compilation together. Taif and Lucy and Audrey and the whole crew, and
Absolutely.
and your crew as well. Really enjoyed this series that we started to think about, I think, back in November, December, and now it's come to life. And I hope we get a chance to do more collaborations in the future. In the meantime, if people want to learn more about what you're up to and check out Beyond the Code, where should they go?
They can go to beyondthecode.ai. And, if you're a person who's like a sponsor or wants to get in touch to do some stuff together, you can always reach me on LinkedIn. I'm under my name, Nefertiti A. Strong. Check out this particular show. And, the good thing about The Edge of is that all the information is there for you. That's one of the things I love about this show is that no matter what show you see, you can always figure out how to reach people. And I think that's a real asset. And thank you, Josh, for your support, really, because we I think have seen over a 500,000 views in this particular special Africa edition, which makes me super proud. I mean, like that's a lot of eyeballs. So I want to thank you and your entire team for supporting this and doing it at like zero. Like you just guys just came in and supported. So I really, really want to say thank you to you and all of the people that are supporting this show and that have watched these shows, especially the African edition, because that just says a lot. It really, really does. So yeah, shout out to all the viewers.
Yeah, shout out to our listeners. We wouldn't exist without them. And thanks so much for your time today, Nefertiti.
Thank you.
We've reached the outer limit at the Edge of Show for today. Thanks for exploring with us. We have room for more adventurers on our starship, so invite your friends and cool strangers to join our journey. If you're among the hundreds of thousands following us on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, or watching us on Myco or YouTube, please hit that subscribe button, rate us, and make an awesome comment too. And don't forget to pass this episode along to a friend or two who would benefit from it. Doubling back to again, recommend checking out myco.io, where you can watch The Edge of Show and earn for your time and attention. That's myco.io. Don't forget to visit theedgeofshow.com. The is part of the domain name, where you can learn more about collaborating with us and also subscribe to the Edge of Weekly newsletter for the latest Web3 news, events, and show drops. In addition, connect with us on all major social platforms by searching for The Edge of Show. Join the exciting conversations happening online. Lastly, be sure to tune in next time for more great Web3 and AI content. Until then, keep pushing the boundaries. Thanks again for hanging out with us today. The views and opinions expressed on The Edge of Show reflect solely those views and opinions of the show host and its guests. Please make sure to do your own research. Our show is not financial advice. You understand that you are using any and all information on or through this podcast at your own risk. Whenever making financial decisions, we recommend doing your own research and talking to your accountant for financial advice. From time to time, we may feature sponsored content on the show for which we receive value, and we may share links for which we receive a commission if you make a purchase through one of these links. Refer to our website, www.edgeofnft.com, for our full disclaimer, terms and conditions, and privacy policy.